We were together for 7 years. He never changed, until the day I walked away, and suddenly he became everything I needed. But by then I was already gone. Hey folks, thanks for stopping by again. I appreciate you being here. I've got a fresh story to tell today, and honestly, I'm still trying to figure out where to even begin. 7 years is no small stretch of time. That's not just a relationship, that's a full-on era of your life. It's filled with habits, routines, inside jokes, and familiar corners of a shared home that start to feel like they'll always be there. For the longest time, I genuinely believed we were building something real. Something lasting. We talked about all the big stuff, getting married one day, having kids, exploring the world together, and eventually putting down roots by buying a house. I was completely invested. All in. We lived under the same roof for most of those years, and like any couple, we had our share of weird habits and the occasional fight. But there was one issue that never seemed to go away no matter how many times I brought it up. And it was this: Ryan never pulled his weight around the house. Now, I don't mean financially. We split the rent and bills down the middle, and he never missed his part. But when it came to the little daily things that keep a household functional, it was like he had mentally checked out. Chores might as well have been invisible to him. His dirty plates could sit in the sink for 3 days straight unless I caved in and washed them. The trash? He'd walk right past an overflowing bin without blinking. And it wasn't just that. If we were out of essentials, stuff like toilet paper, laundry pods, or garbage bags, it was always me who noticed, me who bought them, me who restocked. Whenever I tried to bring it up, he'd let out this dramatic sigh and tell me he was too tired, that work drained him. Here's the kicker though: Ryan's job paid more than mine ever did. Always had. And yet, despite his complaints, he had more downtime than he liked to admit. He just wasn't the kind of guy who spent his free time folding laundry or scrubbing the counters. At least, not while we were together. Meanwhile, I was pulling double duty, studying full-time and working part-time just to keep us afloat. I only graduated this past July, and I worked my tail off to finish with honors. Something I'm still proud of. But back then, my days were jam-packed, and I still felt like I had to be the one holding everything together. Honestly, I didn't feel like I had much of a choice. Every time I tried to bring it up, tried to talk to Ryan about how uneven things felt at home, I'd get some variation of the same tired excuse. I work more hours than you. You're just better at managing this kind of stuff. Or the one that really got under my skin: it's just a vacuum. That last one became a weird sticking point for me. Our vacuum cleaner was ancient. Every time I turned it on, it let out this awful grinding sound, and the smell, it was like singed hair mixed with dust. It was borderline unusable. I must have asked him a dozen times to split the cost of buying a new one, even offered to cover more of it just to make it happen. But it always got brushed off with some joke like, "We don't live in a showroom," or, "It still runs, doesn't it?" That was his whole philosophy. If something wasn't completely broken, then it wasn't worth fixing or replacing. Meanwhile, I was quietly falling apart. I didn't blow up or scream, I just started resenting him in all these small, almost invisible ways. Like those nights I'd be on my hands and knees scrubbing the bathroom at midnight before a huge exam because I couldn't concentrate unless the place was clean. Or the times I'd lug home heavy bags of essentials after a shift, while he lounged on the couch, phone in hand, totally checked out. It wasn't just the work, it was the feeling that I was the only one who actually gave a damn about making our place feel like a home. That quiet resentment? It didn't stay quiet for long. It began to seep into every corner of our relationship. I stopped feeling like his partner and started feeling like I was just convenient. Like someone who made his life easier, not someone he cherished. And every time I tried to talk to him, tried to explain how completely drained I was, it got twisted into me being a nag. It's wild how, "I really need some help," can so quickly be flipped into, "You're always complaining." And then there was the money. We were nowhere near aligned on that front either. Ryan earned significantly more than I did, but he never once offered to cover a bit more to lighten the load. Everything was always split right down the middle, no matter the imbalance. It wasn't that Ryan didn't have the means to contribute more, it's that he just chose not to. Instead, he'd pour his money into flashy purchases for himself. The most recent example? A brand new truck. Not just any truck either. This thing was massive, ridiculously oversized for our little apartment parking lot, and probably more expensive than what some folks pay for their homes. It was shiny, loud, and screamed, "Look at me." That truck tanked his credit. He'd been buried in extra debt ever since, and it's not like he was oblivious to it. He just didn't care enough to change. Meanwhile, I was scraping by, trying to finish school, juggling part-time work, counting every dollar just to get through the month. And even then, he'd still splurge on himself without blinking, without once stopping to ask if I needed a hand. It was never about the money, not really. I didn't want his paycheck. I just wanted him to act like a teammate, to recognize that I was drowning and offer to carry even a bit of the weight. But whenever I tried to open that door, to talk about how I felt like I was doing this all alone, it always ended the same. An argument that looped in circles. He'd either shut down completely or give me half-hearted promises that he'd change. And sure, for a week or two things might slightly improve. But then it was right back to the same patterns. I kept feeding myself the same line. Maybe once I graduate things will settle. Maybe he just needs time to mature. Maybe our history will be enough to carry us through. But if I'm being honest, I knew I was lying to myself. I was building excuses for him, one on top of the other, hoping they'd hold up. But excuses pile up like bricks until they block your view, and suddenly you can't see the future you thought you were heading toward. There was no explosion. No one cheated. No one stormed out. The ending wasn't loud, it was slow. It was quiet. Just years of chipped away trust and forgotten promises. One day I looked at Ryan and something in me shifted. I felt the weight lift. I realized I was done. Done waiting for him to step up. Done clinging to the hope that he'd magically start caring about the things I'd been begging him to notice for years. Done living in a space that felt like mine to care for and his to simply exist in. So I ended it. Just last week. I sat him down and told him straight, I couldn't keep living like this. That I needed more than what he was willing to give, and that I no longer believed he could, or would, change in the ways that actually mattered. His reaction. He didn't get upset. He didn't try to stop me. He just looked vaguely irritated and muttered, "If that's what you want." That was it. But here's the part one never saw coming. Walking away from the relationship didn't just set me free, it seemed to spark something in him. Like flipping a switch I didn't even know existed. I knew breaking up would be messy. We still had to share a space at least for a little while, so I braced myself for the awkwardness. But I didn't expect this version of Ryan to show up. It was like the second I said those words, like I finally drew the line, he suddenly snapped into action and started acting like a capable, responsible adult. And I'm not exaggerating here. Within days he began doing all the little things I'd spent years asking for. Dishes? Washed and put away the same day. I actually caught him wiping down the counters, twice, in 1 week without me saying a word. The guy who used to step over crumbs like they didn't exist was now tidying up like it was second nature. And the vacuum, the one he swore for years was perfectly fine? Gone. Replaced. He went out and bought a brand new one just like that. No hesitation. No arguments about price or practicality. The same man who once rolled his eyes every time I brought it up suddenly had no issue spending money when it was just for him. But it didn't stop there. He went on what I can only describe as a home essentials shopping spree. Fancy shampoo, new towels, color-coordinated cleaning products. Everything neatly labeled and organized like he was preparing for a Better Homes and Gardens photo shoot. And all of it? Clearly for his future place. His name was literally on the storage bins. I know I shouldn't be shocked. He told me he was planning to move out. Of course he's getting his own stuff. But there's a sting to it that I can't shake. Because it's not just that he's capable. It's that he's finally willing to try, now that it only benefits him. Where was this version of him when we were together? Where was this drive, this attention to detail, this basic respect for shared space? Why did it take me leaving for him to wake up? Where was this money when I was down to my last 20 bucks, trying to figure out how to stretch it far enough to buy toilet paper and trash bags for the both of us? Watching him now, it's like seeing someone finally become the partner I always needed. Just not for me. And logically I get it. This isn't some sudden transformation rooted in deep personal reflection. It's self-interest, plain and simple. He's doing all of this because he has to now. Not because he wants to make my life easier, or because he suddenly realized the weight I carried for so long. But even knowing that, it still hits hard. There's this bitter little voice that keeps whispering in my ear, "So, you could do all of this? You just chose not to when it actually mattered." That realization, it's heavier than I thought it would be. It's not like I believed he was incapable. I always knew he had the time, the energy, the money. But somewhere, buried beneath all my frustration, I think I held on to the hope that maybe there was some legitimate reason for the way he was. Maybe he genuinely didn't know how to show up. Maybe he needed clearer communication. Maybe things would settle once school was done, once stress levels dropped. Just, maybe. But no. None of that was true. Turns out he didn't step up because he didn't want to. And now, every time I catch him doing something as simple as wiping down the stove or taking out the trash, it doesn't feel like growth. Feels like a gut punch. Like proof that I wasn't worth the effort when he had the chance to make it count. I find myself getting angry in flashes. Small things set it off. Like when I see him folding his own laundry without being asked. Or restocking the paper towels I used to carry home alone. I catch myself wanting to say something sharp. Oh, now you're capable of cleaning up after yourself? Or, look at that, suddenly you know where the store is. But I bite my tongue. Not because he doesn't deserve to hear it. He probably does. But because deep down I know saying it won't change a thing. He'll either brush it off like it's no big deal or twist it into another reason why I'm the problem. And honestly, I don't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing me riled up. I don't want him to know he still gets under my skin. Lately, I've been trying to shift my perspective, mentally reframe everything. When I see Ryan unpacking his brand new vacuum or carefully arranging his high-end shampoo bottles in the bathroom, I try to tell myself, good. Let him get used to it. Let him learn how to manage a space by himself without leaning on anyone else. And some days that mindset helps. But most days it just brings up the old ache, reminding me of all the years I held the house together on my own while he coasted. And here's the part that's really wearing on me. His move-out date keeps changing. At first he said he'd be gone by September. Now it's looking more like December, maybe? Supposedly, his rental applications didn't get approved. So for the foreseeable future we're still under the same roof. I've got a plan in place. One of my close friends is ready to move in as soon as he's out. That thought, that little glimpse of peace on the horizon, is the only thing keeping me grounded right now. But in the meantime it feels like I'm living with a ghost. Not of a person exactly, but of the relationship itself. He's here, doing all the things I once begged him to care about, but emotionally, it's long past the point of no return. The connection is hollow. There's this weird, almost performative calm between us. We don't argue much, but we don't really talk either. It's like we've silently agreed to just orbit each other, existing in the same space without touching. And honestly, I think Ryan's fine with this setup. Maybe even comfortable. He gets the benefits of the familiar, the routines, the home-cooked meals, the shared space, without any of the emotional responsibility. And if I'm being completely honest with myself, I think there's a part of him that's trying to make a statement. Like he's saying, see? I can handle this. I'm not lazy. I've changed. But it's all just noise now. Doing it after the fact doesn't erase the years he chose not to. It doesn't rewrite the nights I cried alone in the kitchen or the mornings I left for class feeling invisible. And there's something almost manipulative about it, not in a big dramatic villainous way, but in that quiet, calculated post-breakup move. The one where someone suddenly becomes everything you wanted, just a little too late, hoping it'll plant doubt. Hoping you'll second-guess the choice you made. I've seen it before. I've watched friends fall for it. Some even went back thinking maybe this time would be different. But I'm not going back. If anything, watching all this unfold has only solidified my decision. When you spend years asking, begging really, for just the bare minimum of respect and shared responsibility, and someone only starts putting in the effort after you leave, that's not growth. That's just damage control. That's someone scrambling to look good for themselves, not for you. And I've got no interest in being the kind of woman a man needs to lose in order to finally treat right. I deserve more than that. Always have. The hardest part now. Honestly, it's keeping my temper in check. I've never been someone who handles anger quietly. And seeing him suddenly thrive at all the tasks he used to avoid, it's like pressing on a bruise that never fully healed. Over and over. I've been doing what I can to stay grounded. Venting to close friends. Scribbling down my feelings in a journal that's quickly filling up. Repeating to myself that all this effort he's putting in now, it's not about me. It's about him. His pride. His ego. I'd be lying if I said I didn't sometimes fantasize about leaving a note on the fridge. Something snarky. Something like, wow, love what you've done with the place. Where was this effort the last 7 years? Petty? Totally. But would it feel good? Yeah, it would. But I won't do it. Because deep down, I know the real victory here isn't rubbing it in his face. It's walking away. It's building something better without him. So I've started mentally detaching as much as I can. I make my own meals. Keep my own space tidy. Plan my future in quiet little steps. I've begun picturing what life will look like once he's finally gone. December feels far away, but it's there, like a pin on a map I'm slowly inching toward. And with it comes something I haven't felt in a long time: freedom. The chance to make a home that feels entirely, truly mine. That's the part people don't always talk about when it comes to breakups where you still live together. It's not just about healing from the relationship. It's about getting through the everyday, the grocery lists, the shared bathroom, the awkward silences, without reopening wounds that are still trying to scab over. But in a strange, unexpected way, all of this, his sudden transformation, the too late attempts at being responsible, it's been a gift. A painful one, sure. But also a clear, shining reminder. I made the right choice. I keep reminding myself of one simple truth. I deserve someone who shows up while we're together, not someone who only figures it out once I'm already walking away. That's the line I cling to when the frustration starts rising, when I feel the anger coil up in my chest. Because if I let it fester, if I feed it, it could swallow me whole. And if you've never had to live with an ex after breaking up, let me just say, it's like stepping into a parallel universe where all the rules are upside down. You're technically single but still sharing the same space. You pass each other in the hallway, use the same kitchen, sit in the same living room, but that emotional current that once made the space feel like home? It's gone. Stripped away. And what's left feels cold and temporary, like you're living in someone else's life, just waiting for your own to begin again. When I first ended things, I had this naive little hope that he'd move out quickly, that we'd both start fresh, separate lives, separate homes, and I'd finally get the room I needed both physically and mentally to breathe, to heal. That fantasy lasted maybe a week. At first he said he'd be gone by September. Then, just like so many other promises he made, that timeline started to drift. September became maybe October, which turned into, actually, probably December. And honestly, I wasn't surprised. Turns out, the apartments he applied for didn't work out, he didn't get approved. Between the debt from that oversized truck and his already shaky credit, I figured he'd hit some walls. But even though I expected it, hearing it confirmed made my stomach drop all the same. Because here's the part that's hard to admit. I don't exactly have a backup plan either. I just graduated in July, and while I'm incredibly proud of that, it also means the last few years were a juggling act. School, part-time jobs, scraping by. My bank account looks like it's been through a war. Moving out on my own right now isn't an option. Not yet. My savings just aren't where they need to be for a major move right now. So unless I want to rack up credit card debt and dig myself into a financial hole right after graduation, I'm stuck too, for the time being. It's not the worst situation in the world. I have a plan. One of my friends already agreed to move in once Ryan's out, and that thought gives me something to hold on to. December isn't that far off, at least not on paper. But when you're sharing space with someone you just ended a 7-year relationship with, someone who's now behaving like the world's most considerate roommate, it makes 4 months feel like a lifetime. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, every day tests my patience. And it's not even the big dramatic stuff. It's the little things. The subtle reminders that twist the knife just a little more. Like when he walks in with his own carefully organized bags of groceries and lines them up neatly in the fridge, deliberately avoiding any overlap with my food. Or when I hear him taking out the trash without being reminded, a task I practically begged him to handle for years. It's a weird, infuriating duality. Part of me is genuinely relieved. I no longer have to chase him down about dishes or remind him that the bathroom doesn't clean itself. But the other part? It's furious. Furious that all this effort, this awareness, this basic decency only showed up after I left. 7 years. He had 7 years to become this person. And now, he's acting like it's no big deal, like it was always within reach. That's the part that stings the most. I've stopped bringing it up. What's the point? I already know the answer. He's doing it now because he has to, not because he suddenly cares. And I can't keep burning emotional energy rehashing the same conversation in a different setting. So instead, I'm pulling back, drawing a clear line where I can. I shop for myself. I cook only for me. I keep to my room most of the time. It's not about being cold, it's about protecting my peace. I've even started taking evening walks just to get out of the house, to reset my mind and breathe air that doesn't feel tense. It's not perfect, but it's something. Better than sitting in the living room trying not to scream at the sound of him loading the dishwasher like he's done it all along. We only speak when necessary now. We're like two people co-renting a space, nothing more. The rent's due this Friday. Most of our conversations now are purely functional. The Wi-Fi spotty again. There's a package at the door for you. That's pretty much the extent of it. No casual chats, no revisiting the past. And in some ways that makes it easier, less mess, fewer triggers. But in other ways, it's just another reminder that we're stuck in this strange in-between space. Not together, not truly apart. I've also noticed how possessive he's gotten over his new things. The vacuum, the towels, his fancy toiletries, he keeps them separate from anything we once shared. Tucked away in corners that are clearly marked as his. And I can't even blame him, I'm doing the same in my own way. But there's a weird kind of pettiness to it, a quiet tension that makes the air between us feel thicker. Like we're already splitting up the pieces of our lives, item by item, even though we're still sleeping under the same roof. The strangest part, though, are the occasional moments that feel normal. Like when we both end up in the living room watching TV in silence. Everything feels still, like nothing's changed. And for a brief second, my brain wants to fall back into old rhythms. Like maybe we're okay. Maybe we're just us again. But then I remember, we're not. And that stillness isn't comfort anymore. It's emptiness. The hardest part of all this, emotionally, has been managing my own anger. Watching him finally become this version of himself that I begged to see for years, it's like a wound that keeps reopening. It's a reminder every single day that I was never enough reason for him to change. And that's a painful thought to carry. It pulls at every insecurity, every question I used to ask myself late at night. Some days I let it consume me. Other days I catch it before it digs too deep and I reframe it. I tell myself this isn't about me not being enough. This is about him not being willing. That reframe has been everything. It's what's helped me stop personalizing his failings. Because at the end of the day, this is who he's always been. I just finally stopped making it my job to fix. We're still splitting bills down the middle. Even though he makes a lot more than I do, I've stopped expecting him to contribute extra. When we were together, that imbalance used to eat at me. It felt unfair, like I was sacrificing while he coasted. But now, it just feels like one less fight I need to have. One less thing to ask for. One less emotional debt to carry. Honestly, it's cleaner this way. No asking for favors. No feeling like I owe him anything or that he owes me. No lingering expectations. No more "you owe me" hanging unspoken in the air. December still feels distant, but I know it's coming. It's like this quiet promise I keep returning to when things feel too heavy. In the meantime, I've been using these weeks to quietly stitch my life back together. Updating my resume, applying for jobs that actually pay what I'm worth, mapping out my budget for when my friend moves in. I've even started imagining how I'll rearrange the furniture the day Ryan finally moves out. What I'll get rid of. What I'll change. What I'll reclaim. There's something deeply satisfying in the idea of transforming this space, of turning it into something that's fully mine, untainted by old energy or worn-out memories. If there's one lesson all of this has driven home, it's this. People don't change just because you love them hard enough. They don't become better because you ask or beg or wait. They change when they want to, or when they're forced to. And if someone only meets you halfway when there's something in it for them, then the truth is, you were always doing the heavy lifting alone. I wish I could say that realization felt powerful. That it made me feel strong or wise or unshakable. But if I'm being honest right now, it just feels heavy. Like a quiet grief that sits in my chest when the house is still. Because yeah, I know I didn't waste those years. Not really. I grew. I got my degree. I became someone I'm proud of. But it still hurts to look back and realize that the person I loved just couldn't, or wouldn't, grow beside me. That's what makes his sudden responsibility so hard to stomach. It's not just about the trash being taken out or the fact that he finally replaced the vacuum. It's not even about the money. It's the confirmation that he could have done it all along. That the problem was never about whether he was capable. It was about whether he was willing. It all came down to a choice. And the truth is, he chose not to show up. That's the part one can't forget. The funny thing is, I've read posts like this before, right here on Reddit. Stories where someone says, "My partner didn't lift a finger until I left. Now they're doing everything I begged for." It's a familiar pattern, one I never imagined I'd be living myself. And the advice? It's almost always the same: don't go back. They're not changing for you, they're doing it for themselves. So I guess this is me taking that advice to heart. In real time. Staying steady, eyes on the horizon, counting down the months until this chapter closes for good. December feels far away, but I know it'll get here. And when it does, when he's gone for real, I'll clean the whole place from top to bottom, light a candle and sit in the stillness. Not because the house is finally clean, but because it'll finally feel like mine again. And if he ever stops to wonder why I didn't come back, why I didn't change my mind just because he finally bought toilet paper or started vacuuming, I hope he remembers this. I didn't need a man who learned to care after losing me. I needed a partner who showed up while he still had me. Thanks for reading, everyone. If any of this resonates with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment, share your own story, and if you're into these kinds of reflections, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support means a lot.